Welcome back to Roundtable. I'm here with two special guests, well, a special guest, and I'm actually going to let Deborah, you take it away for us.
Oh, okay. This is my Sergeant at Arms, Kochimiki Kwetachli, and I'll let him say a few words before I start.
All right, like you said, I'm a sergeant at arms for Carnalismo Brown Berets, and I'm also a Nicantlaka Scholar Warrior. I work for my people's decolonization, and I also introduce them back to their culture. And we're talking about immigration. Well, I'm a so-called immigrant. Yeah, and I put that in quotes because we got to remember that illegal immigration started in 1492. So I wanted to respond to Trump's, I guess, demeaning words, what he's saying. Basically, what he's saying about this whole immigration crap is that, that Mexico is bringing the criminal scum to this country, that is bringing the rapists, the drugs, and all kinds of allegations. Well, we gotta remember that all the world's problems. So we gotta remember that Europeans immigrated to escape their problems from Europe, because they were starving and dying of disease. So they brought they're the ones, the first ones to come with their problems. He's also saying that we're bringing in the rapers. Well, we gotta remember that my people suffered rape and cultural castration through European invaders. Now, why do I focus a lot on culture? Because we all forget history, and we've been here 20,000 plus years. This country, this new country has been here 200 to 300 years. The Europeans have been here in total 500 years. So we're not the immigrants.
I just wanted to add to it and ask you to bring you in on our discussion. So Trump's border wall, how does that specifically make you feel when you hear about the administration talking about building a wall to ultimately kick people off land that they were born and naturally deserving of?
Well, that's to me.
Well, I'm asking you, but I mean
to me, the wall is a joke. Like everything that Trump says, he's a joke. And like I try to research him on the net, and all I can find is him being a clown. That's all. As far as that wall, I mean, the wall is just another artificial European border put in this continent, which before Europeans there was no borders, and it's all a joke to me. But
should the wall, hypothetically get built, what would you see people doing at that point in time in your situation?
Well, like everybody's mentioning again, drugs, they're not gonna, drugs are not gonna stop crossing the border, because America's the #1 country on drug consumption. So whenever there's consumers, there's always gonna be providers, and then those providers are just feeding the need of this nation, which is drugs. And I live in the other side of the border, and I seen the devastation that it does to my people. And I seen the beheadings, the killings, the greed, and it is genocidal from beginning to start to end. Now it comes to this nation. Who do I see consuming drugs? I see my own people consuming drugs. And so now it brings back to the question, like, are they really trying to stop stopping from people crossing drugs? And the answer is no. Because just like the white man gave alcohol to the indigenous population for population control, it's the same shit that we see today. Drugs are there to destroy our people. Because they want it, they really can't stop all that crap from coming to this nation, but they don't.
So you believe, I'm just asking, that America is pretty much egging on the war on drugs? They could stop it if they wanted to.
They could. I mean, didn't they capture, what's his name? Osama bin Laden. I mean, shit, they can do anything. It's the world power right here. So why not stop some cartels when the government is better equipped with weapons and training and all that?
And intelligence, all that intelligence.
Well, yeah, intelligence.
Yeah.
I definitely. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Oh no, I didn't have it. I was just going to say I definitely agree, and I appreciate and thank you for your testimony and your opinion. And I mean, actually, but before we go to break again, I wanted to say, is there anything just for our roundtable community and just for for those that might be Trump supporters out there that could be listening and watching to us or watching us? I wanted to see if you had any final words or thoughts just on this administration for those that support it.
Yeah, and to anybody that supports Trump, they should deport yourself back to Europe. That's what you should do.
Yeah. I can't. How am I going to follow that? My advice to the Trump supporters, the little ones that are left, because there's not really too many. The people that really actually voted for him have really kind of regretted the decision, and I don't blame them. He's stupid, first of all, and the way he speaks about people and the way he treats people is so demeaning that any person that is still out there supporting this man is probably in the same boat. Probably just the same much as demeaning and the type of person of how do you say, again, white privilege, let's just call it what it is. I mean, that's what it is. And I don't think that too many people are left, but the ones that are, look at your commander-in-chief. Look at the embarrassment he's made of himself and of you.
We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. Welcome back to Roundtable. We're here with Nolan and Deborah of the Roundtable community. How you guys doing?
Hello.
Doing pretty well tonight.
Doing good.
So we're going to pretty much use this segment to let you guys introduce yourselves, but our main topic tonight is going to pretty much be immigration and social justice in relation to it, and touching on Trump's border wall. I wanted to give, but before we go into that, I wanted to give Nolan and Deborah, I wanted to give you guys the floor just to talk about your different backgrounds. Nolan, I know you're with the Carrollton Community Movement.
Yes, sir.
And Deborah, you're with Brown Beret.
Gunnalismo National Brown Berets, that's right.
Cool. All right, well, Deborah, we'll let you start.
Okay. Well, I'm the Prime Minister of the Carnalismo National Brown Berets of the DFW chapter, also Oklahoma and Kansas. So what our organization does is we're a grassroots organization that was founded back in the 1960s, and we're dedicated to improve the community by any means necessary. We stand for education, community outreach, and we promote unity. Also, we fight civil rights, immigration reform, cultural recognition, police brutality, ICE abuse, LGBTQ equality, any other issues that are in the community. So that's what we do.
That's good to hear.
All right, cool. And Nolan?
Yeah, my name is Nolan Adams. I'm from Carrollton, Texas, one of the last remaining cities in Texas to have a 287G agreement with ICE. That's what inspired myself and others to organize our community and begin to pressure City Council to end that 287G agreement with ICE. It was just another way to welcome immigration into the city, and as a majority city, we did not agree with that being in our community. We rallied and we pushed for months, and finally we were successful. The city voted to end the agreement, and our communities are a little bit more safe.
Now remind, just for the round table community, shout out to those that are watching and listening. The 287G, give us the background for that again.
So in 1996, the Immigration and Nationality Act created a law called the 287G, which was just another way to oppress minority communities. It delegated federal authority and responsibility to local municipal police departments. It's a very dangerous game to play. Most municipal police departments only require a 2-year associate degree to enter the force. And these guys are doing the job of federal employees, which is incredibly concerning.
Militarizing the local municipalities' security and everything. Yeah, that's out of control.
Exactly. I mean, it led to racial profiling. It led to thousands of deportations, and we don't want our community to be separated. We want our community to be family-centric. We want everyone to feel welcome and no one to feel afraid. There were months during the campaign that we raised awareness to the agreement, and calls started dropping. People stopped reporting crimes to the police in the immigrant districts of the city for an entire month. The area was virtually silent in terms of calls to police.
Wow. Well, as we go back to the Carrollton community movement, I wanted to also touch on how long has this movement existed? How long have you guys been engaged in this social activism?
Oh man, it feels like years. I would say we've been involved for roughly a year. We're a fresh startup. We started with our neighbors, literally. One of our first members was directly across the alley from me. The Guzmans, they played an incredible role in our movement and deserve so much credit. Forever thankful.
Absolutely. And okay, so Deborah, we want to bring you into it. So in terms of the social activism aspect, what is it that you would say that the Brown Beret is truly known for in terms of getting involved within or community relations?
With community relations, mostly police brutality. We deal a lot with the immigration also, but I think the majority of what we fight is the police brutality, going into the 287G and also the SB4 that came out, the racist law that, is about to come out if it passes, we have to kind of remind the immigrant community that they have a voice, even though, they're not of this country, but they have a voice and they're able to fight, even though police have the legal right to say who is in this country, who is not. It's not basically legal in other senses as far as being racist, and things like that. So police can't actually come up.
It kind of justifies profiling, I think, is where you're going with it.
It's definitely racial profiling, definitely.
And that is an issue that affects communities of color in general.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And a lot of the issues is, we have a lot of people that are not of legal status that won't come forward now because of this law. Now we're the ones that have to deal with that, with them not being able to come out and say, okay, we were victims of rape, we were victims of police, we were victims of burglary or any other kind of illegal forms. So not only that, we have children that don't even want to go to school because they don't even know if their parents are going to be there whenever they come back home. Things like that. So we actually have to go in there, talk to these people, set them up with some kind of legal forms so we can have the children taken care of legally by other guardians, as far as like putting legal paperwork in place for these children that are, being left behind when their parents are being torn away from them. So, and that's a lot of the issues that what we're dealing with. It's just kind of comforting the community, comforting, the people that are being targeted.
It's very good. I'm sorry, no.
And I wanted to go ahead and mention, in terms of what Deborah's talking about, it does happen. I mean, you can look to Carrollton to see the effect that SB4 is going to have on these communities. I'd mentioned before that Carrollton's calls for service to the police dropped for an entire month in immigrant neighborhoods. And that's what we're risking with SB4. It is a very real concern. Democrats, socialists, nonpartisan, moderates, we should all be organizing against SB4 to protect our communities. When one group of people stops reporting crimes to the police, it affects every surrounding community.
And plus, crime is likelier to go up because of the fact that people don't want to call the cops.
And they're doing their own justice, They're
Exactly.
handling their own justice, and that's a problem, When you have people that are afraid to call the police and they're handling their own justice, I mean, crime is just going to go up, and that's
Yep.
the dangerous part. So.
Right. And absolutely, I agree. Before we go into it, I kind of want to get your take on just the social climate right now, just in terms of our administration, just in terms of just kind of how everything's leaning. Like we see it, we're seeing it every day that the laws are becoming more strict on inner city communities. We're seeing it every day how somehow like a blow towards the working class, or at least the lower class communities are having to take blows that are ultimately hurting people that are making this country run. And I just wanted to get your take on kind of where you stand on it. Like, and we've talked about SB4, and we're going to get to Trump's border wall later, but the administration in general and how it's just treating its own citizens, like where do we stand with that right now?
So that's actually a really interesting question. I was reading this article today on what affects conservatives in terms of driving them to the current, far-right position. And it's fear. Fear creates conservatives more than any other emotion, any other type of rhetoric. So, our current administration, while Trump was campaigning, he kept on repeating this concept, this image of the criminal immigrant, in order to utilize fear of immigrant populations and people of color to win his campaign. Liberals, on the other hand, are completely unaffected. Their political ideology is completely unaffected by fear. And that's a very dangerous game. I'm very concerned that we're starting to, go back to the Reagan years, but not nearly as subtle. We're beginning to privatize prisons again.
Yeah, and I think I guess I think you said it. It's not as subtle now. It's just more direct.
Absolutely.
The racism has doubled, and I think the racism has always been there, but it's just now more blatant. It's just more out in the open, and that is, in itself, I mean, that's what he was from the get. That's what he was pushing for, with everything that he was doing in his rallies, telling people to hit him in the face or knock him in the face and things like that. I mean, who in their right mind is going to tell somebody else to commit a crime, And then on top of that, you're campaigning, you're trying to be president, you're running for president, but you're telling people to hit other people, to assault other people. I mean, we all saw the videos. We all saw the videos of the man in the cowboy hat just straight out punch, one of the men that were leaving. That right there, I mean, who does that?
It's cool.
That's what he's doing. That's what he set out to do from the get-go. Now that he's in office, now that everything has come to pass, I mean, you see the racism like you and I talking here. Mm-hmm. I mean, you can see it. You go somewhere and they're so open now, to call people Mexican, this, stick that, whatever. It's
or get out of this country,
yeah.
Stuff like that.
Oh man, that get out of the country shit just bothers me. But that right there is more open now that this administration has come to pass.
So on that subject, I was looking into ICE complaints filed internally for civil rights issues. So employees of ICE, file a complaint for sexual harassment, for, inappropriate racial-driven comments. And in 2016, at the beginning of Trump's campaign, you start to see these type of complaints skyrocket. By the end of 2016, we're talking roughly 600 complaints filed for the entire year. Whereas in 2015, I believe there were somewhere around 100, maybe 80 complaints filed. So just in his campaign, he already, emboldened the racists and brought them out of the shadows. You can tell in ICE's own complaints.
And really, where I wanted to go with that also is, does the roundtable believe that with the presence of the current administration, it's welcoming the hate that we were already having to fight before he got elected? I mean,
we're already way back in time, well before 1964.
Yeah, we've been set back. We've been set back years. I mean, now here we are again. We're having people like Dominic Alexander, new people that are coming out that have to actually fight for our equality again, fight for our race, for our races, against racist people. That in all for us to be pushed back the way we were. I mean, here we are again. We have come completely back years, 60 years, 100 years. This is crazy. What they did to, the natives, what they did to your people, that's horrible. I mean, here we are again. We're seeing the natives attacked again. We're seeing Mexicans attacked. We're seeing Muslims attacked. We're seeing black people attacked. I mean, everybody is being attacked. And then, but the white KKK are able to go and do their protest and have police presence protecting that. And to me, that right there, I mean,
It's unjustified.
it is unjustifiable.
I got a story related to that, actually. So one of the rallies in Carrollton, we had alt-right KKK protesters show up to counter-protest, or as they put it, for security, which, by the way, is an indicator that the KKK is at your rally. If anyone with a gun says that they're at the rally to provide security, they're a Klansman. So we had them outside of the city hall there, and they brought AR-15s. Every single one of them was armed. They were in military gear. And what did the police chief do? The white police chief, when he saw that they were there on city property with a gun, which is a crime, by the way, he walked up to them quietly and asked them to please leave their weapons in the car if they were going to counter-protest. Now, if you were to arrive at a city hall meeting with an AR-15, would you be extended the same respect?
I doubt that.
And you?
I think there was already an experiment about 2 or 3 years back where they proved that. Walking around with the AR-15 is different depending on how you look.
It's absolutely true.
Color. Yeah, I saw that.
Well, before we take a break, I wanted us to go ahead, Deborah, give you the floor on the topic of Trump's border wall. So it's worth $70 billion, and and apparently it's supposed to get built before his first term is up.
Well, let me put this out here. All of us in Dallas know Highway 35 has been going on for how long now? We haven't, let's finish Highway 35 first, okay? And then we can talk about building a so-called wall. And besides, $70 billion, I mean, for a wall that is not going to work, my people are very crafty. We were intelligent, I mean, back from the Aztecs. We were intelligent, more intelligent, whenever they came from their ships and tried to, extend their hand to give us smallpox and all the diseases to kill off our people. So these people with their wall and Trump with their wall.
And not to mention also, just to interject, complain about the children that they created, raping the Tainos and Africans.
Oh yeah. So this wall that supposedly is going to go up, it's just wasted money. For me, it's wasted money because the drugs are still going to come through. The bad people are still going to come through. And you want to know why? Because the CIA is bringing them in. The government is bringing the drugs in. The government is bringing in these terrorists. It doesn't. I mean, they're flying them in. They don't have to go through no stinking border wall. They're flying them in themselves. So for them to sit there and say that this is going to solve America's problem, no, I highly doubt that.
Put that $70 billion into our education system, and then we'll talk about solving the problem.
And what about into our homeless communities?
Exactly.
That $70 billion can really take care of some homeless communities in every single city.
Let's start catching people of color back up from years of white oppression, too.
Yeah.
That's a lot of money to spend on some racist border that's reminiscent of the border between, East and West Germany and the DMZ. Why are we going in the direction of all of these communist nations, all of these people that we, maintain a negative judgment against? Why are we becoming what we hate?
And I think the former governor of Minnesota, Jesse Ventura, said it best. A fence that goes up to keep people out today, 10 years from now, could be to keep you in.
That's correct. And not only that, there's already a wall there. I mean, really, there's already a wall there. All you're doing is just making it higher. Wow. Okay, so you think catapults doesn't go higher than the wall that they're going to put in now? I mean, you think planes are not going to be able to come over that wall? No, the wall is useless. It's not going to do anything.
30-foot ladders are sold at Home Depot for roughly $289. Most ladders, by the way, are also manufactured in Mexico. So let's talk about how useless this wall is.
So we left off with Deborah talking about her take on Trump's border wall. Anyway, I like what you said. Let me put it that way. But now, Nolan, we want to go to you for how you take. So Trump's border wall is $70 billion. Will cost the American taxpayer $70 billion, and he's ultimately trying to siphon off land that the country never officially claimed by legal means.
So about 1,200 of the 1,900 linear miles on the border are privately owned. And white Texas landowners really hate it when the government tries to take their property. The majority of those owners being white. Not to mention that, eminent domain proceedings, basically the government seizing public land for its own use, take forever. We're talking years and years of potential legal battles. Like, Trump will be out of office before the majority of these battles are either won or defeated in the court of law. It's just unfeasible. You know, there are quite a few politicians from West Texas down to South Texas that are adamantly opposed to this wall because of the fact that it requires the government file for eminent domain proceedings. The only reason, of course, I mean, we're still talking Texas politicians. And like I said before, they value private land. There's also the fact that they're going to interrupt migratory patterns of endangered or at-risk animal populations. There are many animal populations in West Texas down to South Texas that are in need of protection. We're talking about the monarch butterflies, for Christ's sake.
Treaties?
Absolutely. And then we're also talking about the fact that it's going to cut through Big Bend, which in my opinion is the most beautiful landscape in the entire state of Texas and down through Mexico. That is a national state park, and we're talking about slicing through it with a slab of concrete. It's inappropriate. It's irresponsible. It goes against everything American. It goes against everything Mexican. In no way, shape, or form is this feasible. $70 billion, which is just a rough estimate, by the way. There's no actual information on what exactly this is going to cost. And in terms of government spending, you have to remember that it's going to cost double that.
Let's also remember, or at least identify, so you're going to build a wall that covers essentially 4 or 5 states that is, again, within the timeline being given, is supposed, like, if we have to be practical about this, we're talking at least 10 years just to get halfway done, let alone cover, an entire region. And so the logic behind that, just to your point, the logic, behind building a wall just isn't even feasible.
I would agree, yes. Then you also have to remember that, the majority of Texas construction workers are going to be people that are morally opposed to participating in such building of a wall meant to block people of color from entering the United States. Are they really going to participate for 15, maybe $10 an hour? I would seriously doubt that. And I can tell you right now, as a white man, no 20-year-old white kid is going to haul his ass down to West Texas and work concrete in 110-degree heat. We're talking about the wind is hot. There is no relief whatsoever. No.
Absolutely. I completely agree. I really do think that that says a lot too, just in terms of the discussion of immigration, how the government wants to categorize certain communities to say that no, your place is to be cleaning the bathrooms, to be making the beds, to be babysitting the children. You know what I mean? And instead of like was intended for the country, land of free, home of the brave. Everybody's supposed to be able to want to pursue whatever venture they want. But we get caught up in the stigma of, well, who's an American, and and it's like how does one, like, I just want to ask for the round table, how does one define themselves as an American? Just wanted to get your individual takes on that.
I don't identify as American.
Neither do I. I mean, that's kind of stereotypical. We don't just make beds. We don't just cut grass. We don't. We have doctors, we have attorneys, we have, every kind of profession that you can think of. We are part of that, but we're so stereotyped that it's not, we're not maids, we're not, we don't go and build or do your bed. We're actually professionals. I work with the doctor. We got doctors out there, we got nurses, we got everything out there. So that's kind of stereotypical, for them to say that everybody in this country that's brown that came from Mexico's side are thieves and rapists and everything in between. We're not just brown. We're professionals, and we have to understand that this wall is not only going to try to keep out the Mexicans. These walls are actually built for anybody that's going to cross over. Now you have people from Pakistan, you have people from other countries that are coming in through these borders, which I understand, it is illegal right now to cross the European border, but you have to understand that even with the SB4 law, all that stuff right there, it's not just targeted against Mexicans, it's targeted with anybody that's of color, anybody that is brown, anybody that is black, because you have everybody that in those countries that are every single color.
And I wanted just to add to that it doesn't, basically, like you said, it doesn't just stop that just because you're, you know what I mean, looked at as not an American because you came from Mexico or you came from Canada or wherever. It's also, it is also like a setup, really, just to say to, I lost my point of where I was trying to go with it.
Well, SB4 is actually, it's written so broad that all it is just an open door for other laws to come in. Right. People don't realize that. Well, I have the actual lawsuit. I have the actual SB4, how it's written, the Senate Bill 4. And it's so broad that it's actually just an open door for other things to come through, just right. With that law. And people don't know that. People don't understand that.
And here was the point that I wanted to make earlier. It just came back to me. The reason I say that, well, I asked earlier, well, what is your definition of an American, is that I honestly think that, first of all, everybody's definition of being an American is going to be different. I also believe that every American doesn't just look pale white. You know what I mean? And so when you talk about American or not us, but when it's talked about about American, like I don't think the first picture that should come to mind is a white person, like everybody
Holding a flag.
Exactly, and I mean, yeah, and what is to be looked at as an immigrant can also be looked at as an American. I mean, we choose to say, oh no, you're from that place or you're from that place, and unless you're the white guy, then oh no, you must be an American. You know what I mean? We got to change that racial stigma,
Yeah.
just of the image itself.
So, go ahead.
Oh, and as far as the wall, being built, I mean, a lot of that country is still Indian country. You're still going to try and build on these treaty lands that, because a big portion of it is going to go through treaty lands. What are we going to do? Are we going to go ahead and break treaty? The treaty that they apparently have no problem with looking at Standing Rock. I mean, these people have no shame. The American or the government has no shame to go and do what they do when it comes to treaties. This land is not, I mean, this wall is not going to just be going through American land. This is going through treaty lands. So what are we going to do when the natives say, well, we don't want your wall here? Are they still going to build it? Are they still going to be able to get out there and build that stupid wall? I mean, seriously, are we really going to do this again to the natives as far as what they did in Standing Rock?
And while we're on the subject of Standing Rock, Deborah, I wanted you to also just go deeper in just the discussion of the pipeline. I mean, pipelines in Texas have been bursting. I think at least within the last month there was another pipeline that bursted. And not just a year ago, we were having the conversation off camera. A year ago, we were out there protesting, saying, look, we don't want pipelines coming through lands with treaties, first of all, on native land. But on top of that, we don't want random pipes bursting and then turning us into Flint.
Yeah.
Shout out to those that have loved ones out there in Flint that, they still, we haven't confirmed if they have drinking water yet. And this is because, okay, so in other words, we're protesting the same thing. And yeah, like you said, people don't realize that the door is left open when a pipeline bursted in Texas. Oh, well, you know what I mean? But, the oil there's a bunch of oil in everybody's water up in Flint, Michigan. Oh, well, that's not connected. It's like at some point in time, and then I believe there's other regions, of course, Dakota, and then just the fact that there are pipelines bursting in general, like the very protests that were taking place were to combat that, so that didn't happen. And now that it's happening, it's like the reaction is, well, yeah, I don't know. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I wonder where those pipes were made. Maybe in America.
Probably.
If we made them elsewhere, perhaps they wouldn't burst.
That's the thing, that it's not a question if they're going to bust, it's when they're going to bust, because it cannot hold for years for the oil to be going, for any kind of chemical to be going through this, going through these pipelines. Like I said, it's not the fact that if it's going to bust, it's when it's going to bust. Yep. And it is going to bust, because we see it all the time, like you said. And, Texas it just shows, how inconsiderate they are of lives. Okay, so, here we go again with what they did in Standing Rock. I mean, you see how they treated peaceful protesters, peaceful people. They were out there praying. They were out there doing what they're supposed to do. This is what the natives do, is they pray. They're peaceful people. Just like whenever they came from the Americas, they were peaceful. They extended a hand. They helped them to come in. And what did they do? What did the Columbus and all their native or Europeans do? They treated them like shit. They took what they wanted. They did what they wanted. They raped who they wanted. They killed who they wanted.
Now we have a day commemorating the man that started it all.
Yeah, exactly. And that's like a slap in the face to the natives. It's a slap in the face. It's just, are they going to sit there and build a monument of whoever killed, Martin Luther King, whoever killed Malcolm X? Are they going to build a statue of that person and put it up? Hell no, not on my watch, okay? Not on my watch. But that's just as offensive. This Thanksgiving the celebration that they do, that is so offensive to the natives, very offensive. So for people to continue, telling the story of, in schools where, hey, they came over and, everybody was like singing kumbayas around the damn, fire, that's a bunch of bullshit. It's a bunch of bull.
It's a bunch of pansy white guys who stole land, realized they would not be able to survive on their own, relied on a native and indigenous people for support, and once they had their stomachs full, they bucked up and oppressed. Columbus initiated the equation that those in power here in America rely on today, and that is oppression equals profit. You see it in Jim Crow. You see it during the Civil Rights Act. You see it in today's private prisons. You see it repeated throughout history from the day Columbus set foot in America, from the day the Pilgrims set foot in America, and every day forward, oppression equals profit. Unity equals profit should be the American equation.
And that's what it boils down to is who's making money. I mean, let's be real. The people that are making the money are the ones that are running this whole country. And anybody's lives, they're expendable.
Let's remember also, while we're talking about corporate America, Halliburton's name was connected to, ETP and to North Dakota Pipeline Pro. You know what I mean? The same Halliburton that we were having trouble with a different administration about 10 years ago.
In Afghanistan, Iraq. It's been connected to every single oil-related issue throughout American history since its, initiation as a company.
And another thing that, I want to bring up is, all these athletes taking a knee and how he treated the athletes and things like that and what he called them. I mean, really, a president is calling on national TV, on a presidential speech, calling these people, offensive names. You don't. I'm not used to that. I'm not used to seeing my president, talk about people in this manner. And actually, and the thing is that I understand why, you take a knee. And that's why a lot of people are like, oh, you're so against the flag and this and that. It's not the flag. It's not the flag. And that's why I say everybody that's sitting there whining about people taking a knee, why don't you take your ass to a vet hospital? Why don't you, a VA hospital? Why don't you go and volunteer your dumb, ignorant ass over there to the VA hospital? Because the last time I was in a VA hospital, I saw the destruction of the people that actually have gone to war and come back. My brother that lives in my household has PTSD, that is a disabled vet, because he went out there and was fighting for oil. For what? For nothing. He came back messed up. What does he have? He doesn't have anything. I mean, as far as what this country has done for him after fighting and, getting injured over there, I mean, that's why it hits home for me. Don't sit there and cry about, people taking a knee. Why don't you go to a VA hospital and go and volunteer your time? Go and make sure that those people that actually went out there and fought for you and for this country, why don't you make sure they're okay? Why don't you make sure that the ones that are sitting there sleeping on the side of the road is homeless? Why don't you make sure they got something to eat at night? Maybe some clothes to wear, a place to live. Don't cry about, your flag. Is that flag going to feed that homeless man, that homeless VA? I mean, veteran?
Well, and just to your point, that's interesting how the same people who talk about, the flag and everything are where were they on that side of the field? You know what I mean? Like, where were you? Like, again, back to being an American, how are people defining what it means to be one when you see people speak out against protesting, speak out against, resisting, the president, resisting the administration? It's like, why would you criticize that? Unless you want to be complicit with it, but.
I think the only protesters that need to be criticized are the ones that are running ours over.
Yeah, it definitely.
I mean,
With vehicles.
Deborah and I, along with many, many, many other activists here in North Texas, have actually been doing something for our communities. And that upsets them because they feel the winds of change on the nape of their neck. It's concerning. They feel like they've, managed to swing this huge victory. We can be racist again. Hallelujah. But when we stand up and say, nope, we're putting our foot down, we're not going back pre-1964, they get pissed. But what are they doing for their communities?
Exactly.
They're building pipelines through them. They're leaking lead into our water. They're doing no good. They're participating in the American equation. Oppression equals profit. We want to change the equation, so we're starting something beautiful and beginning to make change. I encourage them to at least, try and do something other than destroy their own communities. Maybe do something good, like Deborah had mentioned. Is it appropriate to ask the interviewer a question?
Here, on round table, of course, anything's appropriate.
So you're a veteran. How does seeing these arguments, because the conservative, end of, let's say, Facebook, often tends to bring up homeless, disabled veterans or veterans specifically in an attempt to add a little bit of weight, a little bit of punching power to their argument. How does that make you feel?
Well, first of all, thanks for the question. Like, I have to wonder, like we were mentioning earlier, when people are talking about what it means to be an American, I have to wonder, well, what did you do? Like my favorite artist, Immortal Technique, talks about it. Like what did you ever do to be considered an American besides fall out of a pussy somewhere in Arizona? You know what I mean? Like what did you do to ever be considered an American? If you didn't serve. You know what I mean? Like, shout out to our veterans out there watching and listening right now. And, to of course, to the ones that didn't serve, I get it. Everyone's not an enemy that didn't join the military. But for, to your point, like for the ones who want to run on a strong, foreign policy, run on a war, a war path mentality, those are the ones that should have been playing Call of Duty instead of me. You know what I mean? And so, because the way I see it is, those are also, if you want to really date back, I mean, what was it? Bush had multiple deferments from Vietnam. You know what I mean? And
Trump had a broken foot.
And what I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure Cheney, he ran from it as well, but of course he was ready. Oh, we're ready to go to war. We're ready to move into Iraq, And so, yeah, the hypocrisy I see just with, I mean, whether we're talking left wing or right wing, the hypocrisy I see on people that talk about, national anthem protests, they're wrong. Oh, you're not an American if you don't wave the flag. It's like I never see, it just doesn't, the ethos and pathos don't match. I never see those same people saying, I put my life on the line, and I believe that oppression is okay because that's what I fought for. I never ever hear veterans say that, and yet we have so many we have so many individuals that are willing to march in Charlottesville at a Unite the Right rally and are so proud of their perspective, but they don't want people to know their names. They don't want people to know where they live. They don't want people to know what they do for a living. It's almost as if they're embarrassed to admit that how they feel is how they feel, but as long as, what I mean, it doesn't, affect the, as long as you're not impeding on anybody else's First Amendment right, then, it's all cool, right?
Every single one of them cried when they got arrested, too.
Oh, that was priceless. I saw that.
It really was.
Yeah, and on that note, I want to give the roundtable this last moment on final thoughts. Any shout outs you want to give to your respective groups? Nolan, Deborah.
Go ahead.
Well, I just want to say, thank you for everybody who's watching, and hope that, the discussion that we had tonight, you're more than welcome to leave your comments. I just want you to know that, we are all in this together, and together we're stronger. So I would like to see everybody come and help protest the wall, help us in bringing this attention about this $70 billion
Waste of taxpayer money.
waste, and not only that, I mean, let's put this money towards education. Let's put this money back into the communities, back into our ghettos, back into our hoods, our barrios. This right here, this money can be used for something completely way better than this wall that supposedly is going to keep the bad people out. The bad people are still going to come in. The drugs are still going to come in. The people that aren't supposed to be here, the terrorists, are still going to come in because the government is bringing them in. So, I mean, there's no way of saying it's going to change just because of a wall. Like I said, my people are crafty. We can build a tunnel. It doesn't matter. I mean, look how El Chapo got out. It was a tunnel. I mean, we're talking about miles of tunnels. So it's not going to help anybody. Let's put the $70 billion where it needs to be. And I want to do a shout out to. No, I'm just kidding. No, just wanted to thank my leaders, for having, I guess, for making me feel that I'm able to do this, for 3 states, and Victor San Miguel and David Gomez, and all the women that are out there, all our women prime ministers, because we're the actually ones that I see that, man, we could tear a man up in a minute. This man right here, behind the scenes, her name is Megan. Yeah. The women have this, so
Shout out to Megan.
Most definitely.
Megan.
Please don't hurt me.
And definitely, I mean, if you want to learn more about the Cardenalismo Brown Berets, we have our page, the Cardenalismo Brown Berets of DFW and of Dallas. Just look us up. My name is Deborah Mendoza. We can definitely get you started. And again, you don't have to be brown to be a supporter. You don't have to become a Brown Beret, but we do want you to get involved. And we can direct you into the right direction. So with that, I'll leave it up to Nolan.
So real quick, I wanted to swing back to that tunnel
my
comment.
husband, my sergeant at arms, Kochimiki Kwatachli. Sorry, go ahead.
Shout out.
Definitely deserves credit as well. All the Brown Berets do. They've been very active and have done beautiful things for their community. I definitely wanted to swing back to the tunnel real quick to talk about that craftiness that you keep mentioning. So it was a 1-mile-long tunnel, dug 40 feet deep, from what I understand, through a prison and then out to a construction site. It was so deep that it was a low-oxygen environment. So gasoline engines weren't able to operate efficiently. So El Chapo sent his engineers to Germany to manufacture a rail-operated motorcycle that would operate in low-oxygen environments. Came back, finished the plans, and got him out without a hitch. $50 million is what that all cost, including bribes. So they're going to find a way over that tunnel, over that wall, whether they're good or bad, whether it's a German-engineered, low-oxygen, rail-operated motorcycle, or whether it's a $280 30-foot ladder from Home Depot, the wall is non-effective. We should immediately cancel all plans It's a ridiculous expenditure that does not need to happen. It has incredibly negative ramifications on a national level. We're ruining our political relations with South America, with Mexico, and other countries are, quite frankly, laughing at us. We're the laughingstock of the world. So as far as my goodbyes go, again, I'd like to thank the host for having us here today. And I would definitely agree with Deborah. Let's go ahead and get everyone out, regardless of color. And that includes you, white people. I see you, okay? I definitely see you. We supported you on the ACA, Democratic white people. We really, really, really need your support now. Okay?
Tell the truth.
Whether you are a moderate, a Democrat, or you don't know what the hell you are, get out here. This one's on you too. These are your neighbors. These are your friends. These are the people you want to be around. I don't have white friends anymore because I found these guys.
And we're better friends, so.
That is very, very, very true. Oh my God, I wish you knew how true it was.
Just a quick scope of what diversity can do in America.
We're not putting anybody in prison for profit. We're just hanging out in an apartment talking about politics. This is beautiful. And this is what needs to happen. We don't need to separate by race. We need to stop categorizing. Good Lord. Let's all just be neighbors. Let's all get involved together. Encourage your neighbors, your friends, to run for local politics because that matters more in the immediate and directly affects more around you than anything else. And that's what Carrollton Community Movement tries to convey. When communities organize, you have an unstoppable power in local politics. You just have to get organized. You can check Deborah out on Facebook. You want to go ahead and repeat that?
Mismo National Brown Berets of DFW. And before you end that, just want to say one thing.
Go ahead.
We built the pyramids before the squatters came, so very crafty. Just remember that.
Fun fact.
And possibly before the Egyptians, too.
That's right.
And you can check us out on Facebook at Carrollton Community Movement. I also wanted to add that either Deborah or myself can extend an invaluable amount of information and resources to anyone who has experienced any form of injustice. Come out. Come yell at some white people in power with us. It's thrilling. It's healthy, too. So thank you very much.
And with that, I'm going to leave us with our roundtable quote of the day by Marion Wright Edelman. The challenge of social justice is to evoke a sense of community that we need to make our nation a better place, just as we make it a safer place. You guys are watching and listening to Roundtable.